No. Okay, so welcome everyone to our weekly ETCD operator community meeting. We are developing ETCD operator. We have such document where we usually describe our agenda. If you want to edit this document, please go to this under this link and join to the community group. You will have an access to edit this file. I'll just copy paste this into chat. And today we have a new member. Robert, please, if you're interested, you can introduce yourself.
I would like to introduce, but mostly I'm interested about the COSI stack based following the work of Andrei. I focus his maybe presentation in storage, but now I see his wide area. I am developer. I'm working in Germany. I'm coming from Slovakia, and the reason why I'm interested about the COSI stack, and I develop my own hardware, Baby Cloud, and that's COSI stack seems to be like something like base infrastructure for deploy the Baby Cloud to the Andre. So yeah, this is my own hardware. So I looking for a solution. At the end, I have a solution for this hardware. It's running K3s cluster without any big problems. Also, this page is running on this hardware, but I would like to have a more automatic solution for day 0 and then 2 and day 3. And based on the number of the nodes which you can see, there is relevant. That's something like multi-tenant cluster. It's interesting. So that's all from my side. Therefore, I'm joined to the ETCD. Yeah. So.
Thank you. So we have such weekly meetings. We are coordinating our development here. We develop ETCD operator. We want to make it official one. Right now, we're talking with CNCF and thinking that it might be accepted. If not, we probably gonna join development and probably somehow can contribute our code there, or we will continue as we developing it right now. So we have such community continuously people who is continuously developing to this project. And we are going to release new version soon. So agenda and open floor currently is empty. Isn't there anybody who want to talk about anything here? Or we can just review pull requests and finish. Okay, let's go to review pull requests. I think we are about to release 0.3. There is a change for documentation I made. It just moves documentation to newer version because nothing is changed in docs. I think we can simply switch it to newer version. Can anybody review this?
The only thing I would like to mention is that probably we need to update the README with guide how to check the signature of the image, because this build, this release will include the cosign job. So maybe we'll need to update the README also before publishing release.
Could you please prepare PR and
Yeah, sure.
Okay, is there anything else what we want to get merged in this release? Login enhancement. Should we add it in this release or to the next one?
Well, again, from my perspective, it should it should be included because there is no changes in business logic, so just a small enhancement of the logging.
Great, and we need one more reviewer.
Yep.
Could everybody, can anyone please check this? It seems like not really huge PR. Okay, then we will.
I can check it out.
Thank you. And then we will prepare the release, and that's cool because we're also going to release Cozy's text soon, and I think we can update ETCD operator inside of it. What is next? Enable RAM builds. It was failed for some reason. I have to check it. Okay, I'm gonna rework it. The rest seems okay. What about design document for the controller?
Just a second. Speaking of the ARM, it's more than likely that this is our tests still being played on the asynchronous stuff. So like, it's not a problem with that PR, it's a problem with the tests in general.
Got it.
Yeah, as far as the design documents, I actually asked about it last week, but we never really got around to it. As we have gathered like 2 weeks ago now, the flowchart is okay. The only thing I asked for last week was like, checking for typos or for maybe someone wants some steps to be more specific or something like that. But otherwise, I think we're done with this flowchart. It should be moved to the right place, like in the website's documentation or something like that. I remember there was a request for that. And it should not be included in this release because it will not be implemented in this release.
Okay, we can add some section like design documents or design itself and put it into website. Not sure what is the correct section for this. I think it can be documentation and something like design.
Yeah, maybe somewhere under reference.
What do you think?
Concepts, architecture.
I like architecture word. I think we can create a new documentation for newer version, and it can be merged in this version, which is not currently released.
There's a frequent pattern that these kind of documentation sites, they've got sections of the documentation for like every minor version, and also a documentation section for the master branch, something like that maybe for the time being.
Yeah, I like this idea because I don't like that every time we need to release new version, I have to move those versions to be updated. So I think we can move them into master.
Mhm.
Or I think this one will be last one, and the next should be started as master. Do you agree? So we will have two options here. Latest. We will have 0.3 and latest for the documentation, which is currently in development.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, sounds good.
Okay. And that's probably it. Do we have anything else to talk about? This issue should be fixed by your PR. Artyom, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes.
We can review this PR right here, right now, if you want to. So we have some spare time. Do you want to introduce it?
Yeah, sure. Why not? So there is additional flag in. Some context. I found that ZAP logging does not add stack traces to errors if the error type itself did not collect the stack trace. So if we are using the errors package from standard library, or we use something like fmt.errorf or something like this, there will be no stack traces, even if we enable stack trace in the ZAP configuration. So that's why I just developed the custom handler for slog, and that's it. And it adds the stack trace not only to errors, but to any log entry on any level which is enabled for stack trace, and that's it. So I've added the command line flag enable stack trace, which is enabled by default, and the default stack trace level is error. So on errors, we will get stack trace. We can disable stack traces, and we can modify the stack trace log level.
Sounds like a good change.
And also, it occurred that that the logger which we used previously and which is used by Kubernetes, it somehow redacted the contents of secrets, for example, and omitted the sensitive data from there. And of course, slog does not do it. So also I've implemented some attributes modification. For now, it works for secrets because it is implemented only for secrets. So if we would, but it can be updated if we will need it.
Looks cool. Thank you. Robert?
May I ask why you would like to have a stack trace enabled as a default? It's not too huge logging.
Because it is enabled by default if you will use the default logger.
Okay, just question.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes it can be useful for development. If something goes wrong, you can always see why operator falls. And you can see stack trace, which functions exactly handle it. I think this behavior is pretty default for every operator. Am I right?
I'd say that it's default not only for operator, it's kind of, I don't know, convention. If you have an error, you will have the stack trace.
Okay.
But in our case, we can disable it.
Thank you. I also wanted to ask that there is some issue about resizing. Maybe someone would like to try for implementing it. There were Seva. He created pull requests. I put some comments on it. So this is about recreating stateful set in case we need to update persistent volume claim template. Robert, if you're interested, you can try to implement it, or at least to just read if it's understandable to you. You could check it.
At the moment, I will just have a look and try to understand the whole process of development. And
Okay.
yeah, I don't know. I don't want to get stuck by this.
No, it's okay. It's just one of the change which is not currently implemented by anyone, and it is one of the change which should be simple to implement.
Send me a link and I just can thinking, but okay.
Okay, I'll put it here. You can just read if you're interested, and you can decide if you want to or you don't want to try it.
Sorry.
Yeah, you wanted to say something now?
It was a mistake.
Okay. Should we talk about guessing ETCD replicas number function, or we totally agree with final design? I can repeat what is written here. We have cases when we have no existing sum entities, for example, stateful sets, and we have to guess correct number of replicas to recover the cluster. Right now, I proposed the next idea that we checking it points for ETCD headless service. So we can take account of how many endpoints do we have and find the latest one, and by its number, guess amount of replicas of ETCD cluster in cluster. The second option is first we're collecting endpoints, we're trying to reach them, we're querying ETCD directly. If we can't reach cluster, we read endpoints, we count them. And if there are no endpoints, we also read persistent volumes claims and guessing number of replicas from them. What do you think about this approach?
The question. As I understand, headless service always have all replicas that exist, so they do not need to be ready. So if we have 3 replicas and 1 ready and 2 not ready, we will have 3 endpoints there, yeah? And we will decide that it is 3, that stateful set should have 3 replicas. Did I get it right?
Correct?
Not necessarily. If we can connect to an endpoint and it can give a response over the ETCD wire protocol and say, okay, like I've got so and so many replicas, then we go with that number. Otherwise, yeah, that looks correct. We may or may not be able to connect to all of the endpoints. However, we do see them. And then we're on the next branch. Like say we've got endpoint 0, endpoint 3, and endpoint 4. we would assume that, okay, this must be a stateful set with a replica count of 5.
In other
and
words, we can also count amount of pods, but since all of those pods are getting added to the endpoints of the headless service, we can use simple endpoints.
And in the first try, we get member list. So we call member list from the cluster, and some replica answers us with this member list. So even if we have one not ready, yeah, one not ready of 3, I mean, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
so the member list is a matter of consensus within the cluster. Either every single ready replica will answer with the same member list, or we've got a case of split brain.
But we check split brain in separate function, am I right?
Yeah, that's right.
So it shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah, it's just that, like in any sort of normal operation, there should be no option of getting 2 different answers for the member list. Besides that, I was considering, it seems to be simple enough to implement some HTTP handle that will return the member list from the members volume. So the member itself might not be ready because it might not be able to achieve consensus, but we can read the database that is stored on its local disk, and we can get the member list from there. What do you think?
Can you really read database without ETCD running?
Absolutely. You can just use a tiny bbolt client to read the file itself.
You mean
ETCD
create pod, attach PVC, yeah, and read it?
There's a couple of options. Like this is open to discussion, like some next step further away. But you can either run a sidecar container that just opens that file for read only and exposes some HTTP handle, which you can query to actually find out what exactly the member list for that specific pod is. What does it think the member list is? Or you can, actually have an init container that does the same thing, and then, once you are ready to launch the actual ETCD member, you signal to the init container, okay, I'm ready to start you up. I know what parameters I have to start you up with. You signal for the init container to shut down, and then the main container will start up.
That's an interesting idea. So sidecar or init container can actually control the amount of replicas of ETCD cluster.
Not quite amount of replicas, but when you're not sure what's going on, it would be helpful to not only know what objects you have in the cluster, but also it would be nice to know, in case there is a persistent volume, what data is also stored in the persistent volume.
I just wondering if we could just add an annotation to the persistent volume claims during runtime, and we can consider it.
That's, I mean, we always can, but every time you've got a step of adding an annotation, any kind of transaction becomes non-atomic. So say you add an annotation, but then adding a member to the cluster fails or something like that. Whereas if you're capable of actually looking at the persistent volume itself, then that's somewhat more reliable. I tell you what, I'm gonna write up an issue with a feature proposal.
Sounds like good to start.
Yeah,
Thing to start.
I just didn't get in what cases does this init container helps? Yeah, because anyway you need to run to start it, and anyway you need to have some guess value of replicas. Did I get it right? So it helps in some other cases, seems to me.
Well, the scenario it helps in is if you don't really know how many replicas you're supposed to have. So you go big and say start a stateful set with say 5 replicas, and then as every replica of the stateful set starts up, you can first check, like in case there's a persistent volume that already exists, and that's something that's already written into it. You can check, okay, I've got replica number 3 starting up. What does it hold in its database? Is its view of the ETCD cluster consistent with what, say, all the other replicas are saying? Yeah. So you might not have an active cluster, but you can check every volume individually before it starts up, and you see, oh, okay, all the volumes agree that we've got members 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we can set the config map to say an initial cluster of 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. It's existing, and let it start. That's kind of the thing that you can do.
But why we can't just start pods without this init container? So what information in addition will we get from init container before starting? So the main question, why we just can't start pod with ETCD?
Well, the additional information you get is say that one of the replicas actually does not have a persistent volume, but all the other replicas are expecting this replica to join, because this one extra replica is new. In that case, you know that you have to set the initial cluster state to existing and the initial cluster to include this new replica, that kind of thing.
Okay, thank you.
I still don't understand what kind of problem we're solving right now, because if we would create more replicas than possible created in this cluster, nothing wrong will happen. Am I right? So previous replicas will continue working with each other. The newly created replicas will not be added to the cluster. So we can simply remove them in normal reconciliation cycle.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, probably that should be okay. Maybe you have so much cases where you have had a failed replica and you removed it, and then something went wrong, and you're back to the start of the reconciliation loop. Maybe that could be a possibility. I'm not sure.
I would like to keep this as simple as it possible, because there might be also issues with such extra containers that they can't be pulled, for example, or they can't be started for some reason.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, if we would go ahead with implementing something like this, this would be a new container that we have to maintain. But then we have to maintain the operator container as well.
What do you mean?
As I said, this would be a new piece of software that would deploy alongside of the open source ETCD. And okay, the ETCD itself is publicly available, whereas this additional container will have to host it somewhere. I thought that's what you were concerned about.
Yeah, that's correct.
But we have to host the operator somewhere as well. So
that's true. But still less impact that those ETCD stateful sets, they can be existing without anything else. An operator, currently operator just operates the state of it, so it can join and scale this cluster. But in case if we switch down Kubernetes, all the nodes, start them again, they can recover itself even without operator.
Yeah, that is a good point. Not to use an init container. A sidecar might be okay, but maybe not an init container.
So that might be an interesting idea. Let's create an issue and we can talk about that later. Okay, do we have anything to talk about else? Yeah, Robert, please.
Andrei, I think that you mean the in Timothy remark to not anatomic but atomic operation. It's 2, 3, 4 lines up. No, you had that.
Yeah, thank you. That's it. And do we have any other subjects to talk about? In this way, going once, going twice. And thank you everyone to visiting our meeting. Let's see you next week. Robert?
You have also the causes tag. Can you, Andrei, send me the link for this meetup meeting as well?
It should be in the same Google group. Sorry, not group calendar. And we have Cozy Stack meetings in Thursday, 6 p.m. I can copy paste it into chat. So thank you everyone.